Hello, Ben here, and welcome to episode 31 of Benjy's Cafe podcast. Joining me for a coffee in Benjy's Cafe this week is the actor Mark Peachey. Mark has a long affiliation with the Curve Theatre in Leicester, making his Curve debut in their production of Richard III and playing the title role in Andrew Lloyd Webber's The Wizard of Oz, directed by Nikolai Foster. He also narrated David Walliams' Ratburger as part of the Curve's online Bedtime Stories series. Mark was in the original London cast of Dear Evan Hansen at the Noel Coward Theatre, and the original cast of the musical In Dreams as Officer Lee at Leeds Playhouse and the Ed Mirvish Theatre Toronto. Other theatre credits include playing both Scar and Pumbaa in the original UK tour of Disney's The Lion King and the smash hit ABBA musical Mamma Mia. He appeared as Jordan Cooper in Hollyoaks for Channel 4, and this Christmas we'll be playing the Emperor in Aladdin at the Palace Theatre Mansfield. In this episode, we discuss being cast in the original London company of Dear Evan Hansen, balancing an acting career with family life, and the importance of maintaining a positive outlook.
I can't take this business too seriously. The work is the success, the job, just staying employed. 20 years I've been doing this, whatever I've been doing now. I love working in new theatres, places I've never been before. I love doing new work, and I love working with nice people, and life is tough, so let's not make it any harder than it needs to be when we're doing such a fortunate job that we get to do.
Mark is a real good egg, or for any French listeners, un bon earth. Welcome to Benjy's Cafe podcast, Mark Peachey. Good morning, Mark. How are you? You've had a good start to the day?
Yes, I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for having me on your podcast. How are you, bud?
I'm very well. Had a nice Monday morning walk. I sort of did a walk run this morning. The old knees are playing up a bit in my old age, Mark. So, I sort of did a nice 5K, but a bit of walking, bit of running, and beautiful. And I remember on Legally Blonde, we used to love park run. I think you were a lot quicker than me. You were definitely Speedy Gonzalez to my very lanky Sebco-esque plod. It's so important, isn't it? Do you find that it just kind of sets you up for the day?
Yeah. I absolutely love it. I love being outside. I think when you get a bit older, you just love, I don't know, anything to do with nature, or even a bit of gardening. I absolutely love it. But yeah, green fingers. But park run is just fantastic. We did that in 2018, and I think, I just really look forward to every single week, whether it was we were in Scotland or Ireland on that Legally Blonde tour, and I've just kind of stuck with it really, and it's honestly the highlight of my week, and I absolutely love it. It sets me up for the week, and to be honest, the one downside about getting a job is that you'll be rehearsing on the Saturday morning, so I'm like, I can't do park run anymore.
Isn't it lovely that thought of, exercise and fitness is important, especially at our age. Like, I think you're younger than me. I'm 90 next year. My God. It's like important
I'm not far off, mate. Yeah.
Just to kind of keep healthy and feel good. I don't know about you, Mark, but I really put a lot of value on that.
Yeah, 100%. I think, it's something that when we started out in the business, probably stuff about mental health definitely wasn't as prominent as it is now. And I think just that value of getting out, getting a bit of exercise, feeling good about yourself, being fit and just keeping fit, and also just being around other people as well is great. So yeah, I think there's so many benefits to it. Yeah.
I first met you, Mark. It would have been, I think, 2009. You were in Chitty. I think you'd done a year on tour, but literally it was the start of the second year's tour, I think.
That's
and
right.
You were just, obviously you'd had the cover, but am I right in thinking it was just literally you were on with like 2 days to go, just like we were rehearsing and you're on?
Yeah, we'd literally, you're absolutely right. I was 29 at the time, and the lead was ill on opening night, basically. So I got the call to say, you're on. And we'd not had, it was one of those times where you'd not had time to rehearse everybody in.
Yeah.
So it was the call you just didn't want that early, because what goes through your head is like all those numbers you've got to do, Me Old Bamboo, getting in the car, all of this stuff was just massive. And I think I was starting to panic a little bit because I'd not really understood before either. That was my first musical, first cover role. and huge, So we got into the theatre and they were just throwing things at me left, right, and centre. The director, the choreographer, and stuff. And I literally said, I remember saying at one point, I'm not sure I can do this. And like the room sort of went silent. And do you know what? The minute I got on stage, and I think probably a lot of people say this, it's like your kind of safe space, and you can start to relax a little bit and go through some of the stuff. You can talk about stuff until you're blue in the face. But until I got on that stage, and then the kids turned up, and I started working with them, going through the numbers, and we just started to piece it all together. And I went on that evening. I think, was it 2 shows or was it what? I can't remember. But I went on. I say to this day, if I can do that, I can do anything. That was the beauty of it, is the fact that there is no fear to be had anymore in terms of what the business can throw at you, because that was just, it was a lot. And I'm grateful for it, but geez, it's not the call you want on opening night,
But Mark, you were so good, and what struck me just how calm you seemed. Like afterwards, you were like so happy with yourself, and like what an experience. But like you say, that set you up and real good grounding for any challenges that do come. But I just thought, gosh, he's so confident. Have you always been that confident? Would you say, was that something that just came through getting through that process?
No, I think it's all, a lot of actors sort of hide it, don't they? They keep it hidden. I think underneath everything, we're all a bag of nerves, aren't we, at the end of the day? I think for me, musical theatre, just every time I get a musical theatre job, I feel like I'm a competition winner or something, because, like you, I don't want to make any judgment, but I've seen your dancing, and we, you... You are considerably better than me, but like I am the worst in the room at a dance call.
Hey, so they don't call you Snake Hips Peachy for nothing.
There's no movement in those hips. So no dancing. We never did any dance training at drama school. We barely did any singing, So it's kind of like when I get one of these roles, I'm just like, how lucky am I, And then sort of going into sort of covering, lead roles and things like that. I'd never get these roles if I went up for them. So it feels like the back doorway into musical theatre, which that could be the name of my autobiography. Anyway, but yeah, I think, it's just how lucky to be able to get to play these roles and have a giggle, especially with my, let's say, limited skill set. So, but I absolutely love it. And the more you play, I lost track of the amount of times I went on for, Scar in The Lion King, or, Kratzker's Pots, or Bill in Mamma Mia, or, all these sort of great roles that I got the chance to play. And I just love it. I think I always had a love for musical theatre, but, just never thought I'd end up working in it. It's great.
Well, don't sell yourself short, Mark. Like you are bloody good, and there's no fluke. Your CV is amazing and continues to grow, and you've got a wonderful voice. You said then you had no real singing training. I didn't. Isn't it nuts that I think if you're a good person, you're keen and eager, and you can act. That's the big thing, isn't it? A lot of the parts you play, even though they're in these big juggernaut musicals, there's still got to be truth there. Do you think that's really helped you as well, your training in that respect?
I think so. I think if you've got sort of, if you're not a triple threat, if you've got sort of two of the three of those skills, I think there is definitely a space, a place in musicals for, character actors, but also, somebody that can act and really have that sort of depth and, truth. I think you can bring a lot. If you can hold a tune as well, then that's an absolute bonus, So yeah, I think it's just about the right one has to come up. Do you know what I mean? You have to go through a lot of auditions. And I used to see you at a lot of auditions as well, and that was before I really knew you, or we'd worked together. And you'd either be in before me, or I'd be in after you.
Yeah, man.
All right, this is the lanky giraffe call, with the middle-aged. So I know your repertoire better than you do, I think, Ben. Yeah.
Well, it got to the point where I'd be like, "Oh, Mark's in."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll be like that. Oh, there.
But what I
Um,
love, Mark, was that we're so similar age, and there was like a little group of us who'd be at the same auditions. But it's almost like, yeah, we're doing this, and it's such fun, and how lucky that we're an age and we're still doing it, and we still love it. Like I feel really privileged to you.
yeah, 100%. And I think the thing is, I think similar to you, we don't take it too seriously. It's like I
Yeah,
can't. There's no way in this career I can possibly be like, well, yes, I'm going to start off as understudy, correct, and then I'm going to work my way up to Valjean. Or I'm just every single job is just a bonus, and let's
yeah,
just enjoy the journey and just be grateful of the work in some respects. Yes, it's wonderful to work and do good work, but I'm not in charge of where that goes. It's just, yeah, just have a laugh, and we all love it when we get employed on a job with a great company as well. How lovely is that? And sadly, sometimes rare as well, that you get
yeah.
everybody in a group that is just brilliant. And we had that on Legally. Legally Blonde was a great bunch of people. Chitty again was wonderful. You end up working, especially Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which my first musical. I was working with a lot of older actors that had been around for ages, and I just was soaking everything up from them. The stories they had about the business. It was just the best experience, I think, to go into sort of working in musicals in particular. So yeah, I consider myself very very lucky, really, to have. At one point, I was going from one sort of number one tour to another. These year long contracts, which was wonderful. But the downside of that was obviously having a family.
Mm.
When I was 30, 2010 was when we had our son. Um, and the first 5 years is fine because you can take them away with you on tour.
Yeah.
But the game changer really is when they start school, and then that's the only thing for me, is that being away from them was hard. Um, and yeah, I got to do the job that I love, but you can't get that time back. So I made sure that I'd always go back, like whenever I could. I mean, even when I was
Yeah.
doing Lion King in Ireland, in Dublin, I'd get a plane home, on a Saturday, or I think we did Sunday matinee. So I'd get a plane home on Sunday, have Monday off, and then fly back sort of Tuesday afternoon or something, And I think that was the way I could kind of deal with it. At least if I could see, you know, the kids at the weekend, then great.
You're,
But yeah,
you're such a brilliant dad, Mark, and that must have been so difficult to say cheerio, after having a lovely day off at home and getting back out on tour. And just kudos to you, because you're brilliant. Like every chance you got to get home, you would do, and that's really hard because you've still got to keep those energy levels up for the job, haven't you? Like getting that balance, and you seem to have got that. And I was always so impressed with that, Mark.
thanks, mate. Yeah, it is like you say, it is balance. I don't think there's any such thing as a sort of perfect life where somebody has
Mm.
complete sort of work-life balance. I mean, if they have, great, good for you. But I think a lot of people, it's the constant sort of balancing of plates and spinning plates and whatever the phrase is. It's just a case of doing what's right for you. And I think for me, I had to see the family at least once a week. If I
Yeah.
went into a fortnight, I would be, bouncing off the walls. So yeah, but if I wasn't doing that, if I was home every night, I'd probably be doing a job that I didn't love. So, that's the kind of payoff, I guess.
Yeah, but what a superhero dad! Like, I must love it. Like, imagine that at school. Oh, my dad's playing Scar tonight in The Lion King. They must have loved it.
They did. It's weird with kids. I mean, yeah. I mean, to be honest, I did some lovely shows early on in my career, like the Gruffalo, and which they
Hmm.
both loved the book for that, and we're going on a bear hunt, and Stuart Little, things like that. Which unfortunately they didn't get a chance to see that because they weren't born. So but then they did come to see, Lion King, and it is a proud moment when you get to be in a show which they're they're really fond of. I mean, Jack was a Chitty baby and Lily Rose was a Lion King baby, so they're forever, sort of associated with those shows in my head because of that.
Yeah.
But then more recently, they came to see Dear Evan Hansen, and which is quite a adult show, lots of adult themes, and they, I think a lot of it probably went over their heads. But what they couldn't get their head around was because it had such a huge fan base. When I was on for Larry Murphy and I'd come out, it was like blinking Beatles, playing or so. The response from the fans on the street went crazy, and they, you must have seen it and experienced it, I'm sure, when the people wanting autographs and things like that. And my kids were like, "Oh my God!" They weren't impressed that I was in the show. It was, "You're famous." I was like, "What do you mean you're famous?" "Well, they want your autograph. They want your autograph." And it's just that weird sort of thing that they've got in their head of sort of celebrity and, YouTubers and things like that. And that just blew their mind that somebody was asking for their dad's signature. It was just very strange.
I think that's where our career differs, Mark. that you played Larry Murphy, I'd be playing Larry Grayson. Oh.
And you do it, and you would do it very well.
Oh God, my friend Everard and all that. Oh, jeez.
Listen, when we last, okay, so I don't know whether we've said yet, but we're both doing Panto together this year.
Yeah.
At Mansfield, which I'm really looking forward to, because you're playing the Dame and I'm going to be the Emperor. So I'm going to end up being your love interest, essentially.
I know, you're going to be my squeeze, aren't you?
I know. Whereas before, when we started, we were the dashing, young-ish, Prince Charming and Dandini. And I remember you said to me then, you were like, "I don't know how long I can keep getting away with playing Prince Charming here." You were like, my hair's going now, and I'm getting old, and it's just wrong, And then you were like, "Now look at you." I mean, that has taken the amazing that you've done there, having, with the hair treatment. It looks amazing. And I'm now thinking,
cheers, Mark.
You
Thank
might
you.
need to start regressing and being put up for Prince Charming again. How do you feel about that?
No, those days are safely. I remember singing, I think, of course, we were at Malvern with Alison Hammond, weren't we? In Cinderella, Mark James there, great comic. But I can just remember, probably for about 5 years, getting away with it, singing One Direction really badly in Cuban heels with my hair sprinkles on. And just looking into the audience and some of the looks from the kids thinking, "Oh, Daddy, how old's the Prince?" It's going to be brilliant. It's going to be so good. Dear Evan Hansen, Mark, my goodness, what a big show, what an important show. The feeling of getting that must have been a huge buzz. Can you remember where you were when that call came through?
Like you'd expect with any big show like that, they really put you through your paces, loads of auditions, rounds of auditions, and then recording it for the American team. And I was absolutely chuffed to be cast in it and to be part of that production, especially, like you say, it felt the first time it was, it had come over to these shores and just how well it had done in America. It was an absolute dream come true. So they, and I don't know if how much you know about this, but because the show was on in Broadway at the time, they flew us over to New York to rehearse out there, which was amazing. And, you got to see the show, but also going to work in the morning in New York, just walking down the streets and grabbing a coffee and a banana or whatever, and just then going into rehearsals, and it was just a brilliant experience. And then to bring it over here, in fact, I remember meeting Pasek and Paul, who, are just amazing and have written all the music and, done some amazing stuff, award winners. And I got over there and I introduced myself to Benj Pasek, and I said, "Hi, I'm Mark." And he's like, "I know who you are." And I was like, what a lovely thing to say.
That is quality, isn't it?
I was like, I know who you are, but he was like, "No, I know who you are. You don't need to introduce yourself to me," type thing. It's like I was, in the room responsible for casting you as well. It's that, and it's just that they were so lovely, and to be part of the original creative team, and to be watching, I think it was Andrew Bott Feltman was out there giving his Evan, which we went to see. It was just an absolute brilliant experience, and they couldn't do enough for us. And I loved the show. It was such a great bunch of people, very talented. And I know it's touring now; it's a different production, but I'm glad that it's still out there, and then the music's brilliant and the story's great.
Oh.
But I think I feel it could have ran a bit longer, but it was such a wonderful thing to be part of. I mean, I was covering for the part of Larry Murphy, who'd been played by Rupert Young, fantastic guy. He was in Bridgerton at the time, star of stage and screen. So he was, it meant that because he was filming, I was just on loads. Again, I sort of lost track of the number of times that I, went on and performed, alongside Lauren Ward, and got to perform the Olivier's because he couldn't make that, and
wow,
music.
And would you have much warning, Mark? Would you have much warning when he was filming, or was it a case of, with Caractacus, it's like literally last minute Lenny? Do you know what I mean? Was it? Would it vary?
I would not. With the filming, I would be given a sort of heads up, at least a sort of week or two. But do you know what? Going back to that, I think that sort of depends on who the other actor that's covering. I think I don't know about yourself, but I've had experiences both ways where somebody like Rupert was so fair, he was so supportive. He'd always give you sort of loads of notice if he was going off or something like that. But there are other experiences, where somebody goes off in the interval, or goes off on beginners, or even the worst thing when they start going, have a look at the script because and you just go. The thing is, the older you get, you go, listen, I know the part.
Yeah.
If you want to go off, but don't do this in between thing. Why?
Yeah.
My biggest bugbear in the business.
Well, you get to an age, don't you, where you just want to do a good job. You want an easy life. You don't want any extraneous angst or stress, do you? And how great Rupert in Dear Evan Hansen was just like, be off, these are my dates. And it just makes for such a happier life, doesn't it? Just an easier existence.
Exactly. But I mean, in saying that, it's apart from singing Breaking a Glove, it's not, I'm not saying it's an easy track, because it isn't, and where you have to get to emotionally and things like that, but it was always a joy to get that call, you know what I mean? Whereas there's other ones where you'd be having your dinner between shows and you get the call that you're on and you suddenly can't eat anything because you're racked with nerves, because you know the journey you've got to go on,
Yeah.
So I think especially sort of Caractacus part, something like that, which is just huge, Was
Larry Murphy more mentally exhausting, would you say, in that kind of that genre of show than say Caractacus and Chitty or Scar and Lion King? Was it a different kind of exhaustion afterwards?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's it's more sort of mental, emotional, sort of fatigue from, because he has a breakdown at the end of Act 1, Larry does. There's so much there about the relationship he could have had with his son. A baseball glove that was never used, that was a gift. It hits hard. And whereas with Caractacus, it was like a stamina thing, really. It was a hell of a role to play. Really, you don't get a chance to sort of breathe, really, and you're singing ballads and up-tempo stuff. You're dancing around like crazy with a bamboo stick, and it's just full on. In fact, I've got a funny story about that. I remember the first time I did go on for Caractacus, right at the end, you have to make sure that you're in the car before the wings open. And because I was kind of probably relieved that I'd got through this performance, I was going around shaking all the villagers' hands, everybody there. And I suddenly, they were sort of giving me eyes like, and I looked, and in the car, you've got Truly Scrumptious, Jeremy and Jemima, and they're already belted up, ready to go. And I'd taken so long shaking everybody's hands that the wings were starting to open. So and I was right over on stage right. So I had to basically do a running jump, but badly timed it, ended up jumping on the wing, used it like a trampoline, and then you heard this like clang, piece of metal fell off, and I managed to get into the car, belted up. I just sort of looked at, it truly scrumptious there. It would have, I think it was Rachel Stanley, and sort of tensed my, and then oh no, it would have been Katie Ray actually. And then I would literally had my fingers crossed that the car would still fly, because you imagine if I'd have broken it and,
haven't got that far through the show.
I know, and then the thing doesn't fly,
Dear Evan Hansen, the score's beautiful, isn't it? Is it, with a show like that, even though it's original London cast, is there any scope for any kind of individual input, or is it like with Mamma Mia, Lion King, it's all been done before joining, a well-oiled machine? Is with a new show, even though it's been done in New York, is there any kind of input that you can have?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, we've all been there, haven't we, where you feel like you're kind of slotting into a paint by numbers type show. This is how it's done and this is how it will be done. Or you get I think it all comes from the director, doesn't it? Sometimes you get those really clever directors that make you believe that you're putting something new into it, but then you actually realise you're doing exactly what was being directed for decades. But I think on something like Dear Evan Hansen, our director, Michael Greif, who could be firm but fair, he did allow scope for people to bring their own stuff to the table. Do you know what I mean? So, little moments, little inflections. He wasn't too set on the blocking. If it worked in that scene and that way round, he would kind of go for that. That was nice. But actually going back to something like Lion King, which you would assume would always be the same, when we took it on tour, the bit where Pumbaa and Timon are distracting the hyenas, they were like, well, let's put something in. Let's do Riverdance.
Amazing.
So we had to learn like a little Riverdance routine. And we had Zazu had a sort of Scottish accent, where normally it would be very much RP, I think, played by Rowan Atkinson. So, I think it is nice when you feel like you're putting your own sort of stamp on it. And I mean, I think you have to, don't you?
Yeah.
We had two very different Evans. And all our Evans were different. But I mean, our alternate Evan, Marcus, was so different to Sam. And that was wonderful that this play, because that's how I think of it really, play with music, was, the story could be told in two very different ways, really, because they were two very different Evans. And I think that's down to the casting and the directing and giving the actors ownership. So.
And how lovely within a company there's that support there when a cover does go on, that there's that trust, isn't there, that people can want to try things a bit differently, that they can get a lot from that as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it does. You're right. You need everybody on board with it.
Yeah.
And you need to feel that support. And I think there's nothing like going on, for a cover and the support that you get on stage at the time and afterwards, But when it's at its best, I think it's when you feel that warm hug around you, and we've got you, and we'll we will support and invest in you and give everything to you, and and I think that is what the most important thing is, telling the story, and to get that support off your colleagues is just wonderful. Yeah, I've always had good response, good rapport with people that I've worked with, and I feel that I've always had that back from them, which is great.
There's some wonderful theatres around the country, aren't there, Mark? There's a lot of great stuff being produced. Becoming Nancy, I hear, is fantastic at the Birmingham Rep. You have a long affiliation with the Curve in Leicester, Mark. Nikolai Foster there, he's doing great things. How is it to work there? Is there a real feeling of community there when you do get a job at the Curve?
Yeah, it really is, 100%. I mean, he's just such a wonderful director and person, really. So like he turned up in 2015, and I was cast in Richard III, which was an incredible production to be part of, because Leicester was was really sort of thriving at the time. They'd found Richard III's, remains, and Leicester City were going great guns in the Premier League. They'd go on to win that. So there was a real buzz around the city. And then we had this fresh artistic director with all these fresh ideas coming in alongside Chris Stafford, had become like a real double act. And they have taken that building and that theatre into, just amazing. They've done amazing things there. And I think you're right. It's the community. I love working there. I love being in that building because there's a great energy. If it's empty, you're like, this is weird. It feels like a football stadium, that's kind of, there has to be people in it. It has to be vibrant. And there normally is. There's always something going on. I recently sang at the graduations there. The place is packed. It's wonderful. And it's a great space to rehearse in. And you just know, you get to know all the staff. I mean, there's great development for people in different roles when they're there. But how lucky for me to have that as my local theatre, a producing house, a receiving house. We see the best shows. A lot of shows start there at Curve. And he is just, sorry, I'm waxing lyrical about it because he's just such a great guy. And the reason I love him is because he doesn't pigeonhole actors. So if you've come from, take someone like Charlie Brooks, who was, Janine in EastEnders, casts her as Blanche Dubois in Streetcar Named Desire, which we did. I did that straight after Richard III. And if you're an actor, you're an actor first and foremost. He doesn't believe in going, oh, you're a TV actor or you can only do musical theatre. He just casts people fluidly, and I just love that. So because of that, I feel like I've been able to work on lots of different projects there. Most recently Wizard of Oz and things like that. But workshops, I love doing workshops there and just working on new material. And he really is one of the good guys. Him and Chris are absolutely great. And I hope, fingers crossed, that they're there for many more years.
Yeah. And also, how lovely, it's literally on your doorstep, isn't it? Fueling your creative side, but then you're back at home every night. Yeah. It's like perfect, isn't it?
I know, it is. To be able to sleep in your own bed at night. We both of us have done enough touring, staying in Granny Goggins' spare room. For
goodness.
60 quid. Well, it used to be 60 quid a week. It's a lot more than that now. Anyway.
I know. Yeah. Well, I've just put my digs for Panto at Christmas. And isn't it funny how, back in the day in my early 20s, it was like, how much money can I save on my touring allowance so I can essentially go and get pissed every night? I've stayed on like a camp bed in someone's garage in Cheltenham, some awful places. It's so different now, my goodness, how that's changed. That I love the buzz of Panto, but my goodness, the walk to work, I want to be by myself. I want to be by myself at the end of the day, just to kind of rest, because that rest and recuperation is so important, isn't it? Do you find that, like when you're in the long run of something, that the older you get as a chap, and you're a dad of two, but you have to pace yourself, don't you?
Yeah, you really do. I think I mean, you've taught me this before. When we were on Legally, sometimes there are things that you don't have to do, and it's fine. You don't need to be going out as a full company and necessarily. Those things are great sometimes, but just being comfortable in yourself to say, no, I'm good, and I'm gonna, I'm just, I'm going home early, or I'm just, just gonna be on my own tonight. I think you do. You get older, you know yourself a bit better, and you just don't want to do those things. I mean, for me, I turned around and said to my agent, I don't really want to be touring anymore, and I don't want to do long runs in London. I don't live there.
It's so difficult to navigate. That's why I'm so proud of you, Mark, because you do that as best as you can, because it is tough, isn't it?
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, 100%. It goes back to that thing about trying to find a balance, really.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But it is. It's finding that balance, and I mean, for me, I've had to kind of go, right, well, what else can I do? And that's when I got into audiobooks, really. It was around the time of sort of lockdown, and I thought, well, nobody's earning any money here. What can I do and still be creative, but also, and I really got into that sort of recording. I mean, I've done about 20 now in the studio. Yeah.
Having the initiative to do that and using your skills, it's brilliant.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people help me. You just kind of, you sort of, I made a few spoke to an actor called Dan Bottomley, John Hassler. I knew that both did recording work, and I said, what do I need? How can I get started in this? I'm really desperate. I want to be at home more with the kids, but also keep the creative juices flowing. And, so they helped me massively. But I love it. I do love it. I mean, it's kind of, you get to do silly voices, if you're working in, whether it's children's books. I've done adult, not that adult, but adult novels.
Bit of Jilly Cooper.
Yeah. Listen, I'd do one. I think that'd be quite good, wouldn't it? He unzipped his. No, leave it. But I really enjoy it, and I love the variety of books that you can kind of do. So I think I've looked at ways of trying to do shorter gigs, shorter runs. Like I knew, like In Dreams was going to be a short run at Leeds Playhouse, and then a short run at 8 weeks at Toronto, and the family came out, and it's all, you've got to make it work for you, haven't you? Even the summer tour I did with Odd Socks doing Julius Caesar, I knew it would be a short sort of summer run, and you look at those little pockets where can the family come out and join me? So they came out to Jersey, it was my birthday, so we had a nice time there, and that's how you kind of combine the two, really. I'll still do the show in the evening, but at least I get to spend the daytime with them.
I tell you why people are so willing to help you, Mark. You're so kind and you're so lovely. You're a brilliant company member. You're bloody good. And I just want to thank you in all seriousness. Most recently, you sent me a lovely text when my dad passed away, who I wasn't close to. And I just want you to know that I really appreciate that you are a good egg, and in theatre it's so lovely. That's why I'm so excited about working with you, because I know that we will take it for what it is, we will embrace it, we will have fun, we know we're making people happy, but we're not saving lives, are we?
No, I think that's it. And thank you, mate, that's very sweet of you. And I think similarly with you, I find that you've never taken life too seriously, and despite if you're having a shit day, I would never know that, because you're very good at kind of just, making people laugh and keeping that sort of morale high, which I think is so important on a long tour with a great bunch of people. I mean, and I think that's the thing. I can't take this business too seriously. I'd love to be that quintessential method straight actor that, but I can't even get, a shoelace in the RSC, let alone a foot, so I'm not going to pretend that like I'm on this incredible trajectory in my career. The work is the success, the job, just staying employed. 20 years I've been doing this, whatever I've been doing now, and I want to get to 25, because that is the one. I remember some of the older actors saying 25 years in the business, dear. 25 years. So I want
You'll get there.
I want
Mark.
So 5 more. I want 25, and I want it tattooed on my 25 years in the business, dear. I mean, I don't think there's any coincidence that I've done a lot of silly shows, a lot of kind of fun shows. Dear Evan Hansen aside, I've done a lot of fun shows, with some wonderful comedic routines, and I think that's the thing. I love working in new theatres, places I've never been before. I love doing new work, and I love working with nice people, and life is tough, so let's not make it any harder than it needs to be when we're doing such a fortunate job that we get to do. I'm all for just, let's have a happy company and just enjoy ourselves.
You're at home at the moment, Mark. Are you head chef this week? Are you in charge of the cooking duties? What's on the dinner menu tonight?
We take it in turns, but I mean, it is. I'm not going to lie, because my wife will watch this back and she'll be like, "Bloody cheap." She does do the lion's share. But what is it? Monday today. So tonight we will have. So Mondays, easing the kids into a Monday is always a little bit like, after the weekend, just want them to get through Monday, having had a decent day, and sort of get back into the routine a bit. So we kind of treat them a bit on a Monday. So we'll have tonight. We'll probably have like a fake. Do you have fakeaways? Do you ever do
No.
So it's like the cheap version of a takeaway.
Oh, okay, right.
But we'll sort of cook it ourselves. So we've done things like, we're into a lot of like Greek and Turkish food and stuff like that at the minute. But actually, I love all that.
Mark, it's been so lovely to chat to you. Congratulations on a brilliant career. I really admire the balance you have with your career and your home life. You're a brilliant dad, and you put a lovely smile on my face. And genuinely, I'm so looking forward to a great Christmas with you. It's going to be brilliant.
Yeah, it's going to be so good. Third time I've worked with you. That's more than any other actor, I think. So, yeah, I can't wait to work with you again.
Mark, it's been lovely. Have a fantastic day. And thank you so much for joining me in Benjy's Cafe podcast.
Thanks, mate. See you in pantomime.
Thanks for listening to Benjy's Cafe podcast with the wonderful Mark Peachey. Make sure you hit follow so every episode gets sent straight to your phone. Tell your friends, tell your family, and if you can, please leave a review. No booking required, and a brand spanking new episode every Tuesday. Just find us wherever you get your podcasts. In episode 32, I'm joined by the Paralympian Millie Knight. She's amazing. I'll get the kettle. Have a great day.